values are a huge part of the business. We have guiding principles, 4 of them that anybody can recite. Obviously, they are what form our culture. Number 1, honor God in all we do. Number 2, help those around us grow. Number 3, pursue excellence. And number 4, obviously, we're a business, so we want to grow financially.
Welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast, where real talks with restaurant leaders take center stage. Discover the challenges and victories that define success in the culinary world. Dive into essential strategies from marketing to operations and gain insights that will transform your approach to your restaurant business. Don't just keep up, lead the way. Join me, your host, Sebastian Stahl, on this journey to excellence. Hey, Lauri. Welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast. Thank you for being here. It's really a pleasure. So, of course, we're just having a conversation here to learn more, of course, your trajectory in the restaurant business. So, again, thanks.
I'm done.
All right. So let's start at the beginning now, because I know you've been in the industry for some time. And of course, we know each other and we work together. But can you share a little bit about your background and how you got started in the restaurant?
So what I said one time in an interview was apparently impactful to the person interviewing me, is hospitality is in my blood. My grandparents started a restaurant, gave it over to my dad, and I grew up in it. So it's all I knew. On top of that, we were constantly hosting. Personally, my parents were always hosting people at the house. So professionally at the restaurant, we had people over, and hospitality is always around, and then at our house. So I never even knew there was another life outside of just being hospitable and welcoming people into your home or your business. So it's been in my blood. So I went to school for marketing, actually originally, not my thing, sorry. And mind you, now that's what I do, but I didn't love it in college as much. But then I switched to hospitality and it just flowed. Like there was way less friction, way more traction. I felt like this is for me. And after that, I went to a hotel. I worked in a luxury hotel for a few years. And the idea there was just get some corporate knowledge and some systems that I can take back to the family business, which was the restaurant, as I mentioned. So when did it start for me? I mean, from birth, this is all I've known. And when did it start professionally? I guess straight out of college. And before that, of course, I worked I was a hostess. I would supervise the restaurant. If I was a server, I would do all that. But get my capacity since college.
Yeah, definitely. So when you were going through this process, like what motivated you to actually consider getting into the family business? You know, of course you were studying hospitality, but of course going into a family business, that decision sometimes not that easy. I mean, of course, it depends on the family.
Yep. So actually it happened in college. Mind you, I always thought, and I think my brothers and I thought that we were going to work for the family business. It was something that we said, like, it's the golden goose. It wasn't just like my parents were going to give us the eggs. They were going to give us the goose. And so it was our job to maintain. And so in college, story goes, I was in a class. It was a beverage management. And the owner of this liquor brand came in and he did something on his own, and he created a huge brand on his own and made it his own, but it was kind of under this umbrella still of the larger platform, right? And he did it so well. I think it was Saint Germain was the brand, and it's a multi-generational company. Unfortunately, they don't have stories since then. But anyways, I was super inspired by him and his story. And that's when the light bulb clicked for me about catering. And so it was this idea of I can do something under the umbrella of the restaurants, but that it would be my own. And that's when I had that idea that I can add value as opposed to just being, I don't know, Nepo baby. I'm going to be daughter that takes over, whatever it is. No, I'm going to add value. If I'm going to be there, I'm going to give back. And that's when that light bulb came on, that it wasn't just going to be something that I do because the path led me to that. No, it was, I actively got on the path. I wanted to do that. I wanted to add value to the business. So right. That was when things changed for me, I guess, in my mind. And I had a different perspective on what the family did.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, definitely once you went in with with your brothers, there's definitely been a change, right? So how the transition between generations influenced the restaurant's evolution? How had that transition been?
No, I mean, it's changed a lot. Imagine when my grandparents started this thing, they didn't know anything about restaurants. My grandfather was a business guy, but never had a restaurant. He was in grocery stores before. And then my grandmother, she didn't know much about cooking and recipes, but they made it work. And so you had somebody with food and business, they made a restaurant and they did it really well. My dad came on and he added this level of service and, systemizing everything, and he absolutely refined it. But that was my grandparents working like crazy and my dad on his own. then imagine my brothers and I come on, and there's three of us now, and we come in with a lot more, knowledge. There's way more tech now. There's years behind us of just credibility in the market. So it's evolved a lot, just in an obvious way that there's more of us now. So that's obvious. And then we'll come with different strengths. My dad did all that he could do with his, but the three of us come with different skill sets, and they all happen to be exactly what's needed for business and for restaurants. So it's evolved and changed a lot. I mean, again, from even one restaurant to multiple locations to all the remodeling that we've done now to take them to what they are today.
For sure. And I think, one thing that I've seen, and I think is very consistent for, with you guys, and it shapes your culture, it's about values, because it's third generation, right? So 3 generations, and that's maintained that consistency, right? So what are some of these values and that you guys uphold at Padrino's, and how do you see that being so important to the development of the company and still being in business after so many years? Not just in business, you guys are doing really well.
Thank you. So what we say is that the restaurant, it was a gift because my grandparents put all this work, my dad and my parents put all this work, and we were given it as a gift, but it could have been any business. So it's on us. It's our responsibility to uphold their legacy. But at the same time, it could have been any business. And how my brothers and I, and my father, obviously, my parents view it is just a vehicle to be a great God-honoring business. And so our values are a huge part of the business. We have guiding principles, 4 of them, that anybody can recite. Obviously, the executive team, my brothers and I can, but all the managers as well, because they are what form our culture. So our guiding values: number 1, honor God in all we do. Number 2, help those around us grow. Number 3, pursue excellence. And number 4, obviously, we're a business, so we want to grow financially. And when I say it's not that those 4 are random in order. They actually have to happen on purpose. So when you put people over profit, so that's helping others grow, that's going to be grow financially. They have to be in order. I say we don't have to make decisions. They've already been made for us. Anything that you have to decide, you put them up against these values, and that answers the question for you. So we strive to uphold that and live that. We say that the managers have to be ambassadors of that culture. And the other thing too is, restaurants get a really bad rep, and it's for a reason, right? It's typically a toxic environment because the hours are all crazy. There's alcohol involved. You're working long hours, and there's just, there's a lot of chaos and stress. And what we say is we want to be the anti-industry, like that there is peace when you come to work with us. Fully acknowledge that you work most of your waking hours. And so we don't want that to be like, I have to go to work. No, I'm going to go to work because sometimes it's more peaceful than my own home, which is very unfortunate that it has to be like that. And we wish there's peace, among everybody's home, but at least they have one space, if you will, that it feels like there's peace there. And it is because you're going to be respected, because there's non-negotiables for us. You cannot swear in the restaurant. It's like a non-negotiable. There's no fighting, verbal or physical. Obviously, there's no gossiping. These are things that are standard and par for the course, status quo in any other restaurant, or any other restaurant in the industry, if you will. And for us, they're absolutely non-negotiable. So we've set that up, and we're really protective of that to ensure that we, maintain the culture. And
that's great. And I totally relate to that, and in my own business as well. And as my years in the restaurant industry, like having those values clear and knowing your priorities, I think is just so important, because we can lose track of things very easily, especially, people over profits. That's a big thing, because we can just get crazy about, hey, we optimize, make it more efficient, lower costs, like all of these things. At the end of the day, especially in hospitality, it's a business made out of people. Like everything is, So that's fantastic, Davi. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit about, talking about more personal and business challenges here. And can you describe some of the major challenges that you faced when you first took on the role at Padrino's?
When I first took on the role, like I mentioned, I came on doing catering, and the challenge would have been, I was introducing something that was pretty new. There was catering where you pick an item and then you just multiply that by 10 and then you put that into a tray. But I overhauled it. I created a menu and systems, and obviously made sure things were consistent weights and things like that. So it wasn't so much that it was a challenge as in there was like pushback. It was just a learning curve. I was creating something out of nothing, introducing it. The great thing is that our product is easy to sell, because it's a really good product that keeps well. And for me, it's really easy to solve. For catering, it's fantastic because our food keeps really well in large trays like that and over time. So that would be the challenge, is just creating something where there wasn't something before. And the good thing, again, like I said, there was not pushback. Everybody was open to it. So it wasn't a hard sell. Like, get on board to this whole catering. They were open.
Right. Right. It just usually takes more time that you anticipate anything that you implement. Right. So like thinking that is it maintaining that consistency, which you guys have, into implementing something that you want to. And
maybe it's a bad memory over time. And that was already over a decade ago. So maybe it was harder than I played it out to be, but I'm very grateful that it all worked out. So, yeah.
So in your professional career, would you say like that's like the biggest challenge you've had, just implementing this new business, or are there any other challenges that you kind of overcome?
No, that was just at the jump, right? So that was just starting off. You said, how was it at, when I started? So how I started that, let's say the challenging, but I went through the same challenge as every other restaurant and every other business, which was in 2020 when COVID hit and you not have any dining room. I mean, so that was challenging. And I could tell you I felt such a legitimate fear, and you can work it up because it's public. I mean, I got interviewed by Channel 6 or 7 or 10, some saying, what are you going to do? And I'm there telling all of our team, we will not fire anybody. And like, I don't know, 2 days after we send out a video, we have to let go 35% of our team, so that was obviously challenging, and it was a nerve-wracking time.
Yeah.
But thank God we got approached by a government organization and they needed meals. And I honestly can tell you that I had no idea how we were going to do it. I just knew that I was so hungry and desperate for anything that I said yes, and I figured it out later. So I was very confident. Absolutely, we can do that. What do you mean? You need 1,000 frozen meals? Yeah, I do that all the time. What are you talking about? So I said yes. We figured it out. We created menus, and from 2020, April of 2020 to we stopped in December. So December of 23, we served over 1 million meals to the elderly and disabled across Broward County. So it was challenging from the start, but it turned out to be, one of our business's biggest blessings and one of my life's biggest blessings. Because imagine what we learned from doing that, from being scared that you're not going to have a business to it was our best here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was incredible. I learned a ton, namely that you can figure it out. The answer is yes. I'll figure it out later. And so, yeah.
I remember you guys had just opened a new location also during that time, right?
We had our location in Boca that was open since 95 that we remodeled, and we opened January 2nd of 2020, and we hit the ground running. That location was so busy, and that was January, February, and then the first week of March, it was like everybody seemed like they're scared and they're not coming in. And second was, everything happened. So yes, of course, I was very prime. And the year before that, we opened a new one in January of 19. There's a brand new location in Dania Point, and we had to fully close. Yeah, again, all of the dining rooms.
Well, and that leads me to really into the next question. When we talk about marketing and the importance of it, do you think that it is important to invest in marketing for your restaurants? And why do you believe many restaurant owners sometimes fail to see the value of doing it? And for example, when you're talking about Dania and you guys had closed, and then you're opening again, you're still not fully stable, but then you decided to invest in marketing.
Yep. So now the importance of marketing, any business, there's multiple tiers to that. You can't do a business and just have all the administrative financial stuff going on and no operation. And no operations without financials, but you also need the marketing arm, because you could be fantastic and you could have all your numbers, right where they need to be. But if nobody knows about you, it's all for naught. So marketing is that. Marketing is just getting people to know that where you are, what you offer, what you serve, your product and everything like that. And so it's obviously, it is essential. We recognize that. I say that for my own survival, because that's my arm of the restaurant. No, I think around even, but. So it's incredibly important. And then your example of Dania Point. So we opened in 2019, like I mentioned, COVID fully had to close, and we invested there in marketing in terms of our signage. We had a sign, but we put an awning over the outside, and it was branded, right? So branding is obviously part of your marketing. Put some lights there and changed everything. We immediately saw an instant change. That shopping center was still in development, and we were in phase 1 where we were open almost on our own. There was not really a lot of businesses open there. So we needed people to turn their heads when they drove by, and that awning and that investment,
Yeah,
so-
definitely. So why do you feel so many restaurant owners fail to see the value of investing in marketing? Because sometimes, they see it as an expense many times. It's been my experience, and they don't really see the value of it. And why do you think it's that?
Expectation versus around, right? And that's what I'm saying. I guess people view it as like, I have to have operation. I have to have my numbers. But marketing is kind of like this like little add-on. And that's what I'm reiterating, is that it is essential just as the other ones are. Why would they push back to that? Because they think, it could be pride. My product is good enough that everybody's going to know about it. And you know what? Word of mouth is enough. And you know what that does? For some people, it may work. But at the same time, some places, their numbers might not be in check, and that may work, but not sustainable. For sustainability, you need to have all three elements there. And marketing is just marketing is just as important as the other ones, truly.
For sure. I think it's a combination of things, right? In my opinion, is that in restaurants is not as easy as e-commerce, where you can track absolutely everything.
Sure.
And now we've come a long way. We can track a lot more things, and you can see the results if you do it properly.
Yeah.
And I think it's just ignorance. I just think it's just a matter that they associate marketing with social media, and that's it. They don't understand everything else that's involved and how that built over time with the right structure goes beyond driving traffic and sales to your business, but builds your brand, which in the long term, again, that long-term value is what you want if at some point you want to get to the next level in your business, right?
Sure. And like you said, just the idea of thinking of it as an expense as opposed to an investment, you would never think that if you needed to buy a new piece of equipment and be like, I need that because I need to produce food or whatever. But no, absolutely. Yeah, just to do everything that you just said.
Yeah, we've seen, restaurants not doing too well, and the first thing they want to cut is marketing. It's like, you're not doing well. Why would you want to cut marketing? But anyway.
But that you were saying about trackability, I do think that, and I even came from that, having worked with more than I can count different companies, and them not being able to produce any kind of tracking for any kind of ROI, right? So this is how much I'm going to spend. This is how much I expect to make from this campaign, or after some kind of reporting on this is how much I need, which obviously, you do a great job of that. And that's what gives you confidence to continue to invest, because you see that return. So,
right. Oh, definitely. Okay. So we're talking about marketing here. So any strategies that you want to share that had been successful in Padrinos, and then share an example of something that just didn't really work out and what you learned from it.
So we launched this campaign and this idea called Noche Cubana, Cuban Night. And we did it in one location. It was like a, pig roast, and we did a big old paella.
And what did that promotion come on? Like, why did you guys come up with that?
Okay. So that was on Saturday evenings, and we were doing that to increase sales on that particular day. Also prolong the dinner, because it can die down early. We have an earlier dinner, so that can prolong the dinner, raise check averages. So yeah, we launched that in one of our locations. It was successful. We tried it in a second one, really successful as well. And then we tried to do a little remix and do it slightly different, but at the same price at another location for lunch. And that one was not as successful. So we're actually in the process now of pivot. Always, you got to adapt or die. The beauty of it, again, we talk about this tracking. You try something, you track it, you see if it does well or not. It's not you try it and then try it again and then you try it again. You try it, you have to see in between, you check your numbers, you see how much you spent on it, how much you made from it. Is the vibe good? Is it even worth doing? And then reevaluate. So we did that with all of the launches, and yeah, well, now we're just part of that refining process and how it goes.
And that's marketing, right? You got to test a lot of different things.
Right.
You have to adapt.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's proven strategy for sure. There's basic things that work, but when we're testing new things, that's the whole idea. Trying something, iterate, and go, and, from the learning, you change. And, switching over now, it's a little bit about operations, because of course you were involved in that part of the business too. I think even when you're in marketing, in my experience, like
everything overlaps.
There's a lot of overlap. Exactly. So in today's challenging environment, everybody knows like everything that's happening, the raising wages, inflation, rents, all this craziness, especially in South Florida. where do you see the industry heading? And what changes do you see restaurants needing to make operationally to survive?
Yeah. So what restaurants have to do, and when they can't lose focus on, is all of their numbers. You can't assume everything. Make every decision based off of data. So that's making sure that when you're inputting a guest count, you're putting in the right number. So you're making decisions based off of accurate numbers there, or whatever that is when it comes to inventory. And the thing is, now the beauty of the technology that we have, I guess the beauty of before is that there was so much accuracy because you had one person, writing everything down, and one person was in charge of everything. Now you have accuracy because you have all of this tech, all these programs that are able to, the moment that you put in an accurate number, it alerts you. And so you can make those changes. So I would say what restaurants have to do in terms of operation is just be on top of everything in terms of numbers. Be very aware of all of your costs. If that means that you have to raise price a little bit, the menu price, see how you can do that. And what I love to do is, we might adjust the price a little bit, but I'm adding more value because I'm going to give you slightly more. I'm going to present it different. I'm going to create an experience because I don't like to just arbitrarily raise prices. I want to give more value, whether that be the experience and the ambiance, or that be the plate itself, the plating, and just be absolutely on top of your numbers so that you don't drown in this really trying time of high rents, inflation, et cetera.
Agreed. I mean, I think there's a shift happening, right? All of these, we were having this conversation a while back about all of these mid-market, I would say, like restaurants kind of close, these big chains closing because they stopped innovating. They were at this, like the middle. So they weren't providing, now it's kind of changing to the ones that are providing this experience, and people are going out for that. Especially right now, people might not be going out as much as before, especially with, inflation, everything that's going on. And then you have the other ones that are streamlining their operation, very simple, limited menus and that stuff, right? And I think what I see with you guys, you've kind of gone this route, elevating the experience and providing value. And I think those are the restaurants that will survive, that there's a very obvious and good match between your offering and the perceived value.
Absolutely. And with that, so I would say we were in that middle range before, only because it was bubble appreciation for older, right? My dad, when he did it, it was kind of nicer, but everything starts leveling it out. Everything gets nicer. So in us raising the experience and enhancing everything, the reason for that, not just because we had to edge up price wise and raise things that were add the full bar and the whole experience that we're doing, it was because my brothers and wanted to beautifully, we wanted to go to, and we don't go necessarily to, that middle chain type style restaurant. If we go out, if we're going to get a babysitter, if we're going to, spend time and money to go out somewhere, we want it to be a nice experience. And so that's what we wanted to create, a place that we would want to go to, that felt like a vibe. Like, we don't want to go, we want to go where there's ambiance. We don't want to go somewhere where we're either the only ones there or it's a cafeteria and there's a billion people there. So we want to strike that balance and create a place truly that we would want.
Definitely. And how do you, managing 5 locations, which you guys have, and we're talking about customer experience and that providing that experience, how do you guys go about maintaining a consistent experience, amongst the 5 restaurants?
I mean, when it comes to consistency, there's front consistency in the back is just follow the recipe. Don't do what your heart says, do what the paper says. This is not like your time to be creative. Follow the recipe. What I can tell anybody is that we have 50 years of time-tested recipes. These were my grandmother's recipes. You don't need to improve them. They're already perfect. Just follow the recipe. With that, there's a recipe in the front, right? There's a recipe, which is our culture combined with our procedures, that I follow the SOPs in terms of the Padrino's way, as we call it. So steps of service, you follow the systems and the procedures, and that's how you get consistency. You match systems, procedures, with the culture. And that is what you feel when you come in. And that is what we're striving for, consistency, because it's a huge part. I mean, people don't give restaurants second and third, fourth chances if you mess up every time. You get that one first impression, you got to knock it out the park. I'm going to come again. But even if you mess up on the second time, they might not even give you grace. So, I mean, we have people that have been coming for 20, 30 years, and they'll say, I've been going for 20 years, and I went this one time, and I'll never go back. Just thinking, what happened to 20 years? You loved it. Goodness gracious, So And people are low on grace, so we have to be high on consistency.
Agreed. And that's the difficult one. But then, and how do you go about, with your team? Because to maintain that consistency, your team needs to be aligned, of course, with your values, everything that you guys do. And how do you keep them motivated?
Mm-hmm. So just constantly, like we said, we have the managers as the ambassadors of our culture, making sure that they embody it, making sure that they feel comfortable when they're at work. And outside of that, I mean, we do fun stuff too. We just had about a month ago, we had something called Padrino Family Fun Day, and it was fun. Like we had 200 employees out in a park, and we had inflatables and food trucks and a soccer tournament and these kind of things where they know that they're valued and we love to spend time with them and we want to see their families, and we don't want to just, them to have a crazy work life, but a work-life balance. So little things like that we do just to keep people motivated and encouraged. And again, just constantly just pouring into them and reinforcing everything.
It's just, how do you make it feel part of? That's been my experience, right? Like, and how do you bring
more than just a job? Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. That's why we're talking about the values and principles being so important, because and what you were talking about, coming to work and being at peace, especially in the restaurant industry, like with all the craziness that goes on in, I think that's a huge part of it.
It's also what Binge is about and separates us from other people.
Yeah.
So the
definitely. So now we're going to move over a little bit to talk about some more personal questions. And so how do you, being in the restaurant industry, I know the challenges, how challenging it is and how it can affect your family life, right? I've been in the business, as you know, and ran restaurants and did all that crazy stuff, fun and crazy stuff, but I had no time for anything. So how do you balance your demanding work schedule with family life? I know that, of course, you're married, you got 2 kids. So how do you go about it?
So it's an interesting question, because on top of the restaurants, I'm involved with a lot of things. On top of this, I sit on various boards and different mentoring things and podcasts. And so there's a lot of different, and obviously what comes first in terms of priority is my family, is my husband, and are my daughters. So that goes without saying. It's a conversation that I had with my husband. He understands. I would tell him sometimes, because there were moments of crazy, right? So during COVID, it was like this understanding of, you're going to have to work. And I was a server with a mask on, like the whole thing. I was a full-on server wearing a mask in 2020. It was like, the best of times was the worst of times. So that there are seasons, right? And there were seasons that were investments into our future. So there's just like that clear understanding that this is something that I have to do right now, but this is an investment in the future. But for the most part, there's more balance than that. That's with the restaurant. And I just, when it comes to it, this is not normal, right? And so I have a lot of support from a lot of people. So I say this and I understand that I am incredibly blessed and I am an anomaly, because I do a ton of things and somehow I can still so much time with my family. I told him when things were getting really crazy and I kept saying yes to things and being part of more things, is it will all be during 9 to 5. Now, I know restaurants aren't 9 to 5, but we have great managers, so the restaurants are really taken care of. And randomly, there'll be little things here and there, weekend or evenings and all that kind of stuff, which we understand. But all of my things happen between 9 to 5. So sometimes, there's a variation of that, but everybody gets to see me and everybody knows I love them. So I had that understanding with him and everything falls within there. So you know what that means? It's like sometimes networking events, those are PM things and evening things. Somebody wants me there. Those are the things that I know I'm going to say no to, because those are going to be on, Tuesday through Thursday night. I need to be with but the other stuff, I could schedule them, I could schedule them during the day and I made sure that they are priority. I'm still, I do homework with together, in the weekends, and we spend a lot of time together, which is crazy. I don't know how much time I can manage in one day, because I feel like I spend a ton of time with them and a ton of time, working and doing my other things. So it all comes down to, long way of saying, just prioritize. And so long as everything is in order, it will work out. And at the same time, I highly encourage living around your family if you can. Priority that you can help with core, and you can have that kind of, assistance that I'm so grateful to have, because, my husband helped with taking kids around and family help, my parent help, and everything like that. So I'm very, very glad, but it's all about priority.
Agreed. I think being close to family is so important, especially being in this business. And then, like you're saying, priorities. and then having the right people in the right places. You know, you don't have to do everything.
100%. So that's something that we have always been, I guess, good at, my brothers and I, is we're not power hungry where we have to do everything, or controlling where we have to, have our finger in everything. It's not about delegating. It's just about, you know what? You are confident and you are going to be empowered to do this role. And so having managers at each location that we trust, people always ask us, like, it's so funny. It's probably on the top 5 questions I get is like, when they see me, which location are you at? Because they think like, oh, my brother's at one and I'm, one, and we're like each at a different location. And I'm like, all of them or none of them? It's good. We say we work on the business, not in the business. Again, we are very fortunate. We were given a restaurant that was successful, and our job is to grow it and expand it. But the hard work was put in by my grandparents and my dad. And again, we've had seasons of that, but there's seasons. We don't live at that. And so, yeah, I love my train of thought.
That's all right. Is there one thing personally, Lauri, that you think that has helped you professionally and personally? And specifically, I wanted to talk about self-awareness, which I think is so important to be able to develop personally and professionally. How do you see that, in yourself? Has it served you? And how do you go about becoming self-aware?
Being self-aware, obviously, you have to take feedback. And if the same thing is told to you, I'd say even on the second time, probably look in the mirror, right? So if somebody says something, okay, that's your opinion, good, good for you. If you hear it twice, 3 times, okay, maybe let's do some, reflection. Let's do some introspection, right? So absolutely, I've been called, not names, but certain things, and I've been put in a box about my personality and constantly asking, are we okay? Is my interaction, trying to mitigate that perception or whatever it is so that I'm not that. Or if I am that person, at least I'm kind too, or whatever it is. But that self-awareness, just knowing how you come across and how perception is reality. So it doesn't matter what I think I am. It matters what you think I am, because it's how people perceive me, right? So I know in reality I'm this, and that. Well, that means absolutely if you think I'm a jerk, right? So yeah, being self-aware is just recognizing what's around you and realizing if that you, or maybe sometimes it's just surroundings, and maybe you gotta, if you're in a shallow pond, maybe get out and find a bigger lake or the ocean, bigger fish to swim with.
I think it plays a huge part also, especially in a leadership role like yours. And, being a leader, if you don't have any self-awareness, like how can you lead other people, right? Because you don't even know how you're coming across, how people are perceiving you, and like everything that's happening, but it also helps you coach other people. And I think it goes back to what you're talking about, creating an environment where people, like a good environment, peaceful environment, because there's going to be stress behind it many times, but a safe environment when people can also voice their opinions, right? Give feedback, provide feedback, because it's so important to, for us to grow. For me, I try to, not easy sometimes, right? Because the ego gets in the way, but we got to kind of turn that off and just kind of open ourselves up to receiving that, because that's the only way that we can truly,
Absolutely. Welcome feedback. You have to hope that people's heart is in the right place. If it's not, I'm sure there's still some nuggets you can collect.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So for future plans of Padrinos, what are you guys planning? Any future growth in terms of locations? Where do you see the business heading in the next 5 years?
So we want growth always in all ways. So that doesn't necessarily mean locations. It can mean locations. So we're open to that, but not necessarily like that. Growth to me looks like absolutely bringing out all that we can from our kitchen. So whether it's catering, whether it's private dining, whether it's government contracts, school contracts, I am open to whatever. I am certainly not locked into a box of what restaurants have to be or what they have to produce. I am open to pretty much any opportunity. I don't go slamming down doors, but if it's open, I walk through, and sometimes I lightly tap if I think there's an opportunity there. And so growth for me is truly anything I feel that the restaurant can provide. I'm here to provide it for them, because we already have the people, we already have the building,
right?
We have the recipes, we have the systems, just plug and play.
Right. So that's good plan growth.
Yeah. Future plans is growth. So that's not one step back. It's whatever that means, whatever opportunity arrives.
Right. And we're going to close with a couple of questions. And if you go back in time and give one piece of advice to yourself when you first started the restaurant industry, what would it be and why?
Well, this is personal. This is restaurants. This is for anything and anybody. is just shut up and do it. So there, what I was talking about, right? That season of working as a server when you had no employees at post-COVID because nobody wanted to work. I could have just said this sucks every day as I was getting dressed and putting on my server uniform and, driven up 40 minutes to Volta and everything like that. What does that help? The moment that I said, shut up and do it, people actually thought people think I enjoy every single thing that I do just because I don't complain about it. And it's just this idea. What happened is, and I say this often, at first it was me mentally saying, shut up and do it, not out loud, like just shut up and do it. And then that turned into, I didn't even have to say it. And then that turned into, I don't even hate this anymore. So that's just the idea of, well, just the idea of renewing your mind and changing your perception of things. So I can't change the outside, but I can change me and how I approach things. And so with the restaurant, because if you want to apply it to that, there's a lot of things that as owner operators, we don't want to do, right? We don't want to do whatever dirty job, or we don't want to do, all of the random things that are required of us. But first of all, shut up and do it if you have to. And if not, figure out, if you keep hitting a wall and you keep coming up with the same thing, why does that keep happening? Evaluate the situation and stop it running into a wall. If you don't have a solution for a problem, you are just complaining. So approach things with a solution mindset. And if not, shut your mouth to work.
That's great advice. Yeah. Great. I think that's the way it is. It really is. And especially in business, that's just the way to go. And okay, and lastly, what advice would you give to aspiring restaurant owners and marketers looking to make their mark in the industry?
Aspiring restaurant owners? Like
shut up and
no. I would take price in your research. You're saying two people wanting to get into the restaurant industry?
Yeah. People trying to get in the restaurant industry, it seems glamorous from the outside, as we know. We both know, right? But sometimes they don't really know what's in the, or they're very creative in the kitchen and they want to just, do all these things, but the day in and day out.
I'm not going to say horror stories. My life isn't horror stories. Like I said, that was all for me. My life now is more on the glam side, but not. But I would say it's more of what people think that it is. Again, I'm incredibly blessed. God's grace, 3 generations of hard work. So that's nothing on me. But what I would say is right now, that the environment for restaurants is that they're closing. I would lean into the stats that say they're the number 1 fail rates. I would be very cautious. I never want to crush people's dreams or suppress their passions, but maybe evaluate just what the current climate is, which is not favorable to restaurants. I would be very, very weary to start from scratch right now. I would say, think it through. And then if you've thought it through and you still think I want to be, smoking a cigar in the lounge while everybody works, no, there is going to be hard work. There's going to be hairnets and washing dishes. There's going to be burns from the heat lamp. There's going to be, all kinds of craziness to get to that. So, unless some kind of army of very faithful minions that are going to do everything, most people don't have that. So I would say, think about it before you get into it. That is for sure. Think long and hard.
Yeah, I agree.
Not for the hard.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful business, but it's one of the toughest business to get into. So
absolutely. That's why I didn't get into it. I inherited it, and it's only mine. It's only mine to, like I said, carry on the legacy. Not, if I would have done it.
For sure, but still not easy. Even.
Of course not. No, even after 50 years, it's still not.
Yeah.
So right is starting fresh.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lauri, thank you so much. That's all I have for today. Thank you for being here and for your time. And anyways, hope to have you back at some point in the near future.
That'll be fun. I hope I have new answers for you next time. Ask me.